sewing and crafting family. I'm Angela Wolf, and we are at your side virtually. So today we have May joining us, and I had to include that video with the new scan and cuts coming out because it's amazing. So if you've never been here before, say hi, say where you're from. If you didn't know, yesterday, in case you missed this, yesterday was the launch of all the fabulous new products for Brother. We're very excited. So mark your calendar next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at noon Eastern. That would be 9 Pacific. We try to make it not too early for you on the West Coast. And each day there will be some educators showing you all the new products up close, personal, and you can ask questions. So that's next week. But for today, we have May, and I see you all rolling in. Say hi, say where you're from, and let's bring May to the party. Hi, May. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for some of the new things coming out with the scan and cut. It's just very exciting. When you think it can't do anything else, they come out with something more.
I know. I'm excited too. And actually, this time around, I'm not entirely sure I wasn't sure what all we were getting into. So it was really, I had just as much excitement as everybody else seeing things announced and seeing all of the promo, all the teasers coming out of what we've got coming.
Absolutely. I love the ads too. Some of them, which halfway through, we're going to add one of the quilt ones in here that just makes me laugh every time I watch it. So May, it's so great to see you. So what are you going to be showing us today? I know it's going to be something fabulous in the crafting world.
So today, what I've been personally doing, I've been playing with some new vinyl ideas that aren't ready yet because I haven't worked out all the kinks. And sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes we get a creative idea and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to work out all of the kinks, make sure that everything is actually going to work, not just, oh, I got lucky. So doing that, though, it has a lot to do with layering and trying to get different things to cut in certain ways. And it really got me reminded of one of my favorite techniques that the Scan and Cut DX allows. Because this machine will cut up to 3 millimeters, that means that we don't have to cut a single layer. Meaning, if we have something that we want to kind of build some depth to, we can, and then cut it. We don't have to cut all the components individually and then glue them together, which is much harder. So that's what we're going to be playing with today, and that's what I'm going to be showing you.
So I have to ask before you go on, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just curious because I started cutting from our last episode. And if anybody missed that last episode, you can go back onto Brother Sew's YouTube or Facebook page. We were live on their sewing, crafting, Facebook and YouTube, just so you know. That was the coolest tutorial. And I loved the idea for cards and invitations. So I've actually started to cut some of those and have them set aside, but I haven't started doing any of the beading or anything else on that. So did you finish any of yours?
I did. I've got two of them are finished. And then I started a whole bunch more because of course I did. I started a whole bunch more because I'm starting to get, we only have, let's see, what's today? Today's Thursday. So we only have 6 more days until school starts. So that's going to mean waiting in parking lots or waiting for things to be done. And those felt crafts from last month's tutorial, those little felt projects and the beading, it's so perfect to have in the car. It's totally compact and will go anywhere. So I'm getting those all prepped so that I'm ready.
Oh, that's awesome. So if you missed that show, you have to go back and watch. It was a great idea for anything, for the gifts, for the holidays, gift cards. What'd you say? Even ornaments. It was very cute. So
you know what? Yeah, I think ornaments are one of my favorite because you can use them as a tag or a decoration on a gift to make it semi-homemade and decorative, and then gift that together. And I always think that's so much fun.
And then they can use it for an ornament.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can bring your scan and cut up here whenever you want to. I'm reading all the comments. Everybody's saying hi. They're excited. And you had to say 8 more days till school. Oh, so that means summer's almost over.
Oh, here it's only 6. We're fine. We're in the countdown. So what I'm going to do first is just show you guys a different kind of not a different example, but just a for example, what we're talking about here. So if you're using paper, what you would want to do, whatever size pieces of paper you're utilizing, however you're doing that, you'd want to make sure, the one trick to this, if you're using paper or another material that does not have adhesive backing, normally I would just put some adhesive at the corners, but you don't need to 100% cover it, but you want more than half. You can probably see as it kind of shines there. You want more than half of your surface covered, because when you get to cutting, what you're going to see is you do not want there to be areas where there's a lot of surface not covered. And the reason for that is pretty simple. You're going to be cutting and you don't actually know going into this, I don't know where the cut lines are going to be because I haven't cut yet. So until we get, because we don't have those answers just yet, you want to make sure that you're using lots of adhesive. And actually the project that we'll make, this is just our for example and to kind of get the feel of how this works. So I've got 3 different colors of cardstock. You could do strips, you could do chunks, you could make it very random, you could have lots of different pieces. You could, if you do like art journaling and that kind of thing, you could put painted pieces on here. It could be lots of different things. The key though is all of the pieces need to be a similar thickness. If they're not a similar thickness, what's going to happen is when we move over to the scan and cut and the auto blade starts doing its thing, what's going to happen if they're not all the same thickness, whichever thickness, the first one that it touches down on, that's the thickness it's going to cut through. So what that could mean for you is that it is not quite cutting through some areas, or you need to do another pass. There's a couple things like that just to keep in mind if you're not having all the same thickness. It's not a deal breaker. There have been times when I really want very different thicknesses and it cut to the thin thickness, and I just had to I had it run again, and then I ended up doing a little bit of trimming myself because it ended up working out the best. That's obviously, that's doable. It's just something to remember that if we're talking about cutting, we want to make sure that we're giving the machine a uniform thickness to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here to the machine now.
So May, I noticed that you had your plastic cover on your mat. Do you always keep it protected like that? And a lot of people always ask, how do you store your mats and things like that?
So if you don't, you're going to destroy your mat really fast, because you think about just, I mean, it's invisible, but have you ever had the light shine in when the sun shines in just right and you can see all the teeny tiny dust in the air? That's just, it's just what it is, right? If it wasn't, then we'd never have to dust our houses.
Exactly.
So, little particles or pet hair or even just fibers off of your shirt. I mean, everything can get on that mat. So you always keep the clear sheet, you always keep that on it if you're not actively using it. That way you are minimizing how often you have to clean. You're minimizing what you have to do with that. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I want this button. Okay, so what I am going to cut, I'm just going to cut a fairly simple pattern here. Let's see, we'll do, actually I wanted to do a heart because of how I put these. I think it'll be pretty, let's see. Okay, so we're gonna pick a heart and we'll pick a fancy heart. And I'm gonna just kind of make it about 4 and full, what is that, 4.35. We'll just say that. Because as you can see, we can't see what's going on the mat right now, which is why I'm going to go ahead and select scan. So it's going to scan my mat in. And what we're looking for is where are those pink and purple papers?
Somebody just asked if you have that many layers, will you actually gum up your needle at all?
I've never had a problem with it.
There you go.
I've never had a problem with it, but I'm also careful. This is just a dry double-sided adhesive that I'm using. I am careful to not use, like, say, liquid adhesive that's still wet or something that could kind of gum things up. Okay, and then as you can see, we can move our heart around so that it's wherever we want it to be on there, and we can make it bigger, we can make it smaller. If we go into edit, we can do whatever edits we need to do. We could even, if we want to rotate it a bit, say okay. If we wanted to say rotate it and then make it a little bigger, we could do that. So you're not confined to how you put those papers on the mat. You can move it all around, adjust and edit as you like. Once you do like it though, we're just going to cut it out. And I'm going to double check here. Let's see. So half cut is on right now. I must have been cutting vinyl. We're going to turn half cut off. When half cut is on, it will not cut all the way through. And that's really intended for things like sticker and vinyl. You want half cut to be off when you're trying to cut through paper. And then it's going to do its little thing here, and it's going to test on the first paper. Now remember, I'm using cardstock, so it's all the exact same thickness. So we don't need to worry about if it's going to cut evenly because it's all the same thickness.
Okay. Hey, Lucy, this is not the new machine, and we're not covering that today. That's next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at noon. I just saw your comment about that. So quiet.
Okay, so it says that it needs to cut again. So my guess is because we've got double the thickness of paper here, it needs to just go one more time, and it'll tell you, it'll just do it itself. Okay. So what I will do when it pops out is I will not move it. I will just kind of lift and make sure. Yep.
Oh, I love that. So
this is why I said you need a lot of adhesive, because you will find, we'll find a spot, I'm sure of it. I didn't do that thorough of a job. Okay, so right here, this is lifting up. Now, it can't lift very far, but there's no adhesive on this exact point. And that's what I meant when I said you don't, before you do it. And on this side, there's just a tiny, tiny bit. And this is not a problem, by the way. But that's why I said you want more adhesive than less, because you want most of the surface covered so that depending on where it cuts, you don't end up having a huge chunk flapping up. Or worse, while you're cutting, you don't want the paper to become loose or fall off because you didn't have any adhesive and now it's cut off. But isn't that fun?
That is so cute. And you know, you did that so quickly, and I just put that to the side. I just want everyone to see how thick that is. I mean, like, yeah, like that way. These are
both very thick cardstock. So that's why it had to run twice, is that I put 2 layers of thick cardstock through, which is not a problem, but it is a lot of cardstock. You know, it's a lot of ask for the machine. So that's a lot of cardstock. Now, the other thing we can keep going with lots of different things on this, which I wanted to show you this as a for example, since paper is so common. We all have paper. This is also a great use of scraps, or you're trying to put together a collage of something, but you're not sure how or what size. You can put it all together and then cut it out, so you're not having to cut all those pieces.
Wow.
This one I'm thinking, get out my sewing machine and stitch the edges, make it look kind of quilted, and then layer stuff on top. I think there's a lot of fun things we can do there.
That would be a lot of fun. Actually, you just made me think that'd be really cool to cut fabric like that too.
You know, you would. You just need to make sure that it's really stuck on there, on whatever you were layering it onto. One of the things I'm playing with the vinyl is piecing the vinyl so that it all matches up and it's cutting one design across multiple vinyls. But I don't have that good enough to share with everybody what I recommend. I've had a few really big successes, but I've also had a few, oh gosh, that was terrible. That did not work. So I want to make sure I get everything just right before we all talk about that, because I want to make sure it works. You know, I want to make sure that we can have success with it for sure. So now what I'm going to do, these are washi tapes, which are just, you find these really commonly. Usually they're sheer, sometimes they're solid. But washi tape, the fun thing with this is, because it's a tape, we don't actually have to think about adhesive because it's a tape. So what I'm going to do is just line a couple pieces here across. And you might notice I'm working in the middle of my white cardstock. That's just, for me, I just think that it makes it easier for me to cut if I'm working off the middle of a paper. I just think it's easier to get things going. And I had a vision here of us doing some like sort of early fall, but doing some leaves and making a little card here. And I started to play with it, and then I went, no, wait, we're going to make that. We're going to do that on the live. Hang on. Don't make that right now, May. Okay. So I just got lots of different ones here, and this one doesn't want to unstick, so we'll skip it. Let's see. These are fun to work with because there's a lot of different ways you can use them. And I always tell people that you can use these as you would anything else, meaning this one doesn't want to play either, okay? How you would use a piece of pattern paper or cardstock, how you would use a thin strip of ribbon or fabric. So you don't need to think of it as anything particularly special. You know what I mean? You don't have to, it doesn't have any properties that you really need to be aware of other than it's a very super thin sheer tape. And there's a lot of ways you could utilize this. I'm really going for it here because I want to cut a couple of leaves at the same time. And if we're going to cut a couple things at the same time, to me, it makes sense that we just go ahead and have enough stuff here so that there's enough surface that we can just cut all at once instead of having to go back and do it again. The only thing about these tapes sometimes is when they get old, they get a little tricky. They don't want to play nice. So definitely one of those supplies. When you get it, start using it. Don't hold on to it.
Shirley says she has a ton of rolls of washi tape. Now she knows what to do with them.
And you know what? You could do a lot of different things. I have done, like for cards or scrapbooking, I've made titles. So made words out of them. I've done, of course, cards. I've also done things where maybe I'm wanting to do like some kind of an accent or decoration, maybe for gift wrap, or maybe there's a home decor project where I want kind of a fun, detailed look. There's whatever you want to cut out if you want it to have all the colors and options. There you go. And the other thing I really like about this is a lot of us, myself included, can kind of get hung up on to, how is it going to look just right? Is it going to be just right? And with this, you're kind of stepping out of the control because you're just laying it down in strips. Now, laying it down in strips, this looks one way in strips. It's going to look totally different now when we go put it on a mat and put it through the scan and cut. We're going to get something very, very different because it's only going to be little pieces here or little pieces there. It's not going to be this whole thing. I don't know about you, Angela, but I love fall. I love the colors. I love apples and leaves and pumpkins, and I know not everybody does, but it's my personal favorite. And I always say that's probably because our summers here are so hot and so long that I just want cooler things.
Actually, our fall is beautiful in Michigan, but I'm a summer girl.
Yeah, we don't really have fall, and winter is pretty mild. So for me, the summer is my least favorite because it's just too hot, And yeah, so I start August 1st. It's always August 1st. August 1st, I start thinking about fall craft projects and wanting to make things. So this is not super fall idea, but you'll notice my colors. It's not an accident because that's where my brain keeps going. Okay.
I love the colors.
So we're going to go in to built-ins, and we have some leaves. So I'm going to pick a couple different leaves, and I'm not going to size them or anything. I'm just going to select them. Okay, and remember we can't see what's going on there, and that's fine because we're just going to keep going back. And I'm not using my stylus because we have a new puppy, and he ran away with my stylus, and I let it go.
I can't let that slide. Did you just say your puppy ran away with your stylus? Julie, are you listening to my sister?
He did, and it was so funny because it went sliding, but it went sliding under a desk that would take me at least 10, 15 minutes to get enough stuff off of it to move the desk to get the stylus back. And I went, you know what? We're just not using a stylus today. Then. That's all right.
I love that.
Right. It's amazing what they find. Okay, and we'll do this one. Okay, so I've got 3 different leaves here, and they're pretty big right now, but what we're gonna do first, I'm going to scan. That way I know what I'm working with. As soon as I get my patterns, or even some of my patterns in, I like to go ahead and scan so I can see what I have and how it's going to look. Because this will tell me scale. This will tell me how it's looking, and then what we can do is we'll go into edit, and remember we can move them so it doesn't have to be straight up and down. It can be at different angles depending on what you want to do. And then we can size. I think that's just much too big, so we can size. We can increase the number that we're cutting and move them around, and then repeat on everything. Let's see. That one's that way. We'll send that one that way.
Ivy says your camera is perfect today.
It's the brightest, bluest sky out there today. I'm so happy. When I saw it, I went, oh, good. This is going to make life a lot easier. Love it when that happens. I'm so used to, if I say it's a filming day, I'm so used to the sky deciding to do something not as helpful. Okay. So then these are a little big. We'll size those guys down a bit. So we can size them down depending, and we can make them different sizes too if we want some of the leaves to be bigger and some to be smaller, depending on what you're making or what you're trying to do. Or this is another great project where maybe you don't have anything in mind necessarily. Maybe you are just looking to do something a little different. Maybe you're just looking to, maybe you've just got something that you'd like to do, or you've just got product that you want to get used up. This would be a great one to go ahead and do that with. So now all we have to do is move our leaves around, and you're just going to want to keep in mind where your ends are and not get too close to the very end. So just kind of moving everybody around here. The other thing I try to do is make sure if I have one leaf type that I don't have them all in the same section so that they don't all have the exact same pattern. And if you need to adjust very slightly, you can just kind of tap like so and get that. So if you're wanting to get it very specifically and you're getting frustrated, maybe it's going too far or too fast, there's plenty of ways around that. Let's see, we'll put you down here. And we might end up with one like this one. It just doesn't quite fit. We can go into edit and we can rotate it so that it does fit. There we go. Okay. So with all of these now we just have to let it cut. And this should be, I'm going to guess that this is going to be one round of cutting simply because the washi tapes are so very thin. I'm going to guess that it doesn't need 2. And we remember that we can double check right here on how they're all sitting. And these 2 are almost touching. And if that happens and you think, well, goodness, you know what, that might be kind of a problem, you can always move things around. So I always tell people, remember, when you get to this screen where you're going to cut, take a look around and make sure you're happy with how everybody looks and that nothing is overlapped, that nothing's going to be a problem. All right, so we've got 2 minutes of cutting here.
Awesome. I have a couple questions for you, too, while you're on there.
Sure.
I just love those colors, too, by the way. Okay, you're turning me into a fall girl. Let's see. Patty wants to know, do you have to use that screen, or is there a program you can use on the computer to make this work? Fortunately,
Oh, yes, so you can use Canvas Workspace. You can absolutely use it and set everything up and then bring it on over.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There's just, Canvas Workspace you can do a lot with. I tend not to use it because my computer's usually in another room, and setting it all up, for me, setting it all up is less convenient.
Right.
So for me, it works better. I know lots of people that primarily utilize the Canvas Workspace, that they like that a lot better.
And speaking of Canvas Workspace, they have a lot of free projects on there. For those of you that have a Scan and Cut, don't forget to go there and use that. They have new things all the time. Really.
It's funny you say that, because I haven't checked all summer, and I went, oh, you know what? I've got to get on there and see what's new, because I know there will be.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
I'm back to the fabric idea. This is washi tape, but it looks like a beautiful piece of quilted fabric.
Okay. It does. It reminds me of that. Okay, so I'll test one or two here just to make sure that everybody looks like, yes, it says it cut, but I always like to just double check in a couple spots, because if for some reason, while everything is still here, if for some reason I found one that did not work, I can put it back in the machine and recut it. And I'll tell you, I've done it before where I didn't double check myself and didn't make sure, and then I end up having to manually cut because I've moved things, and now I can't precisely to the millimeter get things back where they need to be. All right, almost there.
Oh my gosh, those are adorable.
Aren't they fun?
Yeah.
It's such a fun way to create, but it's also such a fun use of scraps too. And they're always different.
Love, that is so cute.
Move this guy up. Okay, so now all set up and we can make our card here. And I'm thinking, just see if I've got which paper I've got here. So we can do something like, we can go paler. No, I don't think so. I think we're gonna lean into our kind of more fall colors up. Maybe a little too bold, or maybe that works. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay. So we're going to use this guy. And a lot of times what I will do, I can work on a finished card, but a lot of times what I will do is actually work within just a flat sheet of paper and then glue this to a card. And the reason I'll do that is just because I think sometimes it's just easier, especially if you start getting into stitching or other things that you're going to be doing on that surface, it can be easier to attach it.
So cute.
So now what I'm going to do, I have some dark green ink, and this, I'm just going to rub it on the edges. And this little trick, all this is going to do is add a little bit of contrast. And I'll show you the difference. So you can see that guy, and if we have the one that doesn't have it,
oh my gosh,
it just helps it stand out a little bit. So all you're doing is just helping it kind of stand out and be a little more individual there.
Okay, that's great. What a great fun idea to do with that. And you can absolutely see the difference when you held up the one that had the green and one that did not.
Yeah, it does it's funny how it does. And a lot of times too, a project like this where you're getting pretty random here. I mean, there's a lot of colors and patterns. And I find that when you're getting into projects where you're really getting a little wild with your colors and your patterns and everything's going every which way, that some kind of like a calm, consistent something. And it can be a lot of different things. Sometimes I use thread for that. Sometimes I'll use ink. It just kind of depends on what we're doing. Sometimes you can use paper or paint or something in a neutral color, but sometimes having something that's consistent across the board also not just helps them pop and stand out, but it can kind of help your project make sense so that it's got just a little more, okay, I see, I see what's going on here, instead of, wow, there's a lot of things going on and I'm not sure where to look and what's happening now.
Right.
So let's see, I'll do one more. I think I'll do this one. And this kind of stuff you can cut. You don't have to cut all the same kind of shape. We could have cut lots of different shapes. You could make a lot of different things here, depending on what you're creating and what you want to make there. And then what I'm going to do, let's see. You know what? I do like this color. So what I'm going to do now is make an executive decision here. I'll scan and cut one more time.
Was that just an ink pad that you were rubbing?
Yes, just an ink pad.
Yep.
You could also use, if you have a marker, depending on what kind of marker it is, some markers will work for that as well. Let's see. Now there's a few little spots where I've got a little bit of paper kind of stuck here. We can use our trusty spatula here to kind of gently help lift that off. But what's really going to help, because there's no way I'm getting every single fiber up. This was a new mat, so it was extra sticky. What's really going to help to get any final fibers off of there is, after we're done here, I will go grab a wet wipe, not the kind with alcohol in them, and gently clean this, and it will get any little fibers or residue, and it will lift off those little bits of paper for me. Okay, so I'm going to cut one more thing, because now that we're into design mode, and we talk a lot about techniques on our live shows. We don't necessarily always get real far into design because we're too busy talking about everything else. But for design purposes, a lot of times when I get into something like this, I find that there's something that I'd like to create. And in this case, I'm gonna make a heart again. That's just gonna be a good shape for this. A plain heart this time, and let's see. I'll make it about 3 3/4, excuse me. Okay, and then I need to scan. Love this, we use this a lot, and the reason is obvious. It makes it so easy to know exactly where your stuff is. Now, we talked about Canvas Workspace. The Canvas Workspace is great for designing all of your stuff, but when you're wanting to use just a scrap, this is definitely the fastest, easiest way. If you're using a built-in design and you just want a scrap of material, this is definitely easiest to get it on there and get it cut in just a moment.
While you're cutting that, just for a minute, you do have a couple questions. Lucy said she doesn't usually use paper as her medium, but she wants to know, do you always start with cardstock as a base and the thinner papers to decorate?
Nope, it does not matter. So we could use, I have done, depending on what you're making, I often, if I'm working paper, use cardstock as a base, because that's the quality of paper I want. For example, I'm not going to use printer paper in my scrapbook. It's not acid free. It's not archival. It's not as good for scrapbooking. So I wouldn't use that there. There's definitely, it depends on the project, because you can use something like vellum that's sheer. Like, let's say you're trying to do something with sheer layers to it. You could definitely do something like that where you have a piece of vellum as your base and then you're covering with other things. Cardstock just tends to be, if you're working with paper, that's usually your least expensive and most plain. So if we're covering up white cardstock, that's fine. We're going to put our prettier or our fancier things over. In this example, the colored cardstock that I put on the white cardstock was thicker.
Okay.
So it does not matter thick versus thin or anything like this. All that matters really is that it's a consistent layer, that you're not going super thick and super thin. If you're doing that, then you're better off to cut separately. so that you're actually able to cut everything appropriately without either cutting through your mat or missing areas and having areas that didn't cut through.
That makes sense. All right.
All right, so we've got our heart. Now we're going to get into assembly mode here. Let's see. I think I'll put a little more. We're going to do a little ink. So if you have a curve, you can just kind of lightly bend so that it's not permanently bent. It's just so you can get in there. You can just lightly bend and ink your edges. And I know some people have like fancy foam tools that they like to use and all of that, and that's fine. But if you're using something like that, you're not going to just get a sharp, crisp edge from this. Or if you have, let's see, do I have a pen that's got a brush tip? I think I do. Yeah, so the other thing you could do is just a pen with a brush tip works really well along the edges, like so. So if you don't have an ink pad, pen works. That'll work too. All right, so now we're just going to build a card. Why not? It feels like it's been a while since I've sent anybody a card, so that would be a fun thing to do. And I'm going to offset that. And then I have a little stamp that says hello. So what I am going to do is decide where the hello is going to go first. And the reason is, once I get going with these leaves, it can be kind of hard to leave space or to remember. If I've got something important that I want marked down, I think it's easier to go ahead and get those base layers or those, I really want this to be here pieces first. And then I'm just going to adhere the very bottom of the leaves so that I can kind of layer them accordingly. And if need be, yes, you can just yank. I'm just yanking off the base of that one because I don't want the base. And I also want to be able to kind of curl my, if I want to make some curl to the leaves and kind of have them go up a bit, I can certainly do that. Let's see. Whichever way, there's no wrong answer here, which is always my favorite thing when I can craft and say, no wrong answer, it's all correct. That's my favorite. Okay.
I think your puppy found your stylus.
Did you hear him? So he's not down here. He's up and he's getting wild about something. He woke up. When he wakes up, oh, let me tell you, it's something. Oh, he found one of the adult dogs. That's what he found.
Oh, there you go.
I know the noises well enough now that I can hear. He found an adult dog, and he's harassing an adult dog. That's what we have going on here. Okay. And then I have somewhere. So I found, let's see. I found these little embellished flaws. These popped out at me. So these are all just stickers. They look kind of like brads or something like that, but they're just little stickers.
Like little buttons.
Yeah, they look like little buttons, but they're stickers. So I thought we could add a few of those to be fun. We could add bigger things if we wanted, but I really like the leaves there. So I'm going to leave those, but I can also get some glue out and put a couple little buttons and things too. As long as my glue's working here. Yep. So when I start adding little buttons and things, what I'll do is just kind of put a few little dots here and there, like, okay, I'd like to, have a spot here and have a spot there, because I use a glue that will dry clear. So if worst case scenario, we don't like it and we want to get rid of it, I can just remove it with my finger and it'll be gone. So I'm not committing exactly. I'm just kind of putting some little bits and pieces. That's another thing I like to do this, especially August and September, I want everything to just kind of be like little sprinkles of this and that, and having fun with it. So we'll put some of those guys in here. And then, let's see, it looks like I got everybody. And then if I wanted to, it looks like I even have some teeny tiny beads. If you had glitter glue, that would be fun. If you wanted to add some more of these guys. Oh, that's a glue spot. We'll put We'll glue a little button on there. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Maybe one of these guys. Maybe a little, one of those guys. Having some fun with it. Look at it. Yeah. So we could be done. We can keep adding. I personally think once everything's dry, I'm going to get my sewing machine out and stitch around the edge. And then I'll mount this onto a white card so that there'll be just a little bit of a white base, little white edge. And I'll be sure to post a picture too. But I think that'll be a lot of fun. Whoops, I just scraped a sequin off. See, that's why I got to be careful when everything's wet. You got to be careful. Isn't that fun?
That is so much fun. So cute. Do you know how much you pay for a card like that? If you could even find a card that cute, which is that probably can't find a card that cute, but if you did, you'd be paying a lot of money.
And the other thing of it is a lot of the stuff we can use up our scraps. We can get things utilized or put together that we wouldn't otherwise. And I also think a lot of times with these kind of like, okay, well, you're just going to throw it all together and see what you get. Sometimes you come up with ideas that you wouldn't have come up with or that you wouldn't have relinquished creative control enough to get to that place of randomness.
It's very cute. I love that. And I agree with you on the fall colors. Those just make such a warm looking card. I love that. So I'm with you now with the fall colors. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Let me just see. There's a few questions rolling in. Oh, Jan said she'd love to get a card like that.
This one too. I'll share this one. This is done because I've got kind of a vision. I'm thinking I'm going to do some hand stitching and do something in all the little scallops and stuff. I've got an idea for that one too.
Quilting is one of the biggest trends this year, and that looks like paper quilting. I mean, that really looks like a quilt. So, hey, Dorothy, what you can do, because she showed that entire instruction from beginning to end. When we're not live here in just a few minutes, you can go back and watch the whole replay. So just wanted to let you know. So, and you're on Facebook, so if you share this to your Facebook page, it makes it easy for you. All right. Well, here's a question from Linda. Can you scan the mat and have that show up in Canvas Workspace?
Why do I think so? I don't actually have the answer because I have never tried to do that. But for some reason, I feel like on the iPad.
I don't know. We'd have to get back to you, Linda, because
we have to. You know what? I'll look into it. I'll make sure I have an answer next time. But for some reason, I think I've seen it, but I could be very, very wrong.
So we don't know. We'll let you know though, Linda. So that was a good question though, because I've never done that.
No, I haven't done it, but for some reason I thought, I'll figure it out and we'll get back to you.
And Shirley, can you talk about the new Rotary Blade, or is that for another day? That's next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are all the new products. Mark your calendar, noon Eastern Standard Time. Noon Eastern. All right. And, here was a good one from Audrey. Does the ink stick to the tape or does it rub off when you were doing that little ink on the side?
That's a good question. So I use a waterproof ink, which means that as soon as it's dry and set, it's stuck, like you would expect, like a permanent marker. So perfect. Once it's on there, it's stuck. So that is something you want to make sure if you have an ink pad and you're not sure if it'll work or not, take a scrap and rub it on a scrap, set it aside for a few minutes, and then either touch it or take like a tissue or a paper towel and touch it with that and see what happens. And that'll be your answer as to if your ink pad will work or not.
There you go. That's a good idea too. All right, so Maxine, I don't know do you have a scan and cut? Because if you do, you better take that one out of the box. If you don't, it cuts many, many things. She wants to know, can the scan and cut HTV vinyl, etc.? What does it cut?
It cuts, I mean, not everything, but I have cut leather, cork, paper, fabric, felt. Yes, HTV vinyl, glitter vinyl, sticker paper, acetate, shrinking the heat shrinking plastic, thermoplastic. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on with the list of what this will cut. There's a lot of things it will definitely cut. Yes.
Oh, Maxine, don't you love spell check? First she said boo, but she meant no. So no. So if you end up getting one of the Scan and Cuts, Maxine, what you'll want to do is definitely go to Brother Crafting and Brother Sews, either YouTube page, and you can binge watch for hours, especially when May is on. So she's on many of the shows. And also, I have May's website below here. And if you go to her website, she has a ton of tutorials on the Scan and Cut. So there's a lot of really, it's amazing. It even draws. And what was it? I can't remember what the thing is called where it would make little indentions in tin.
Embossing.
Embossing. Yeah.
Embossing. And you can also, so you can, the drawing, there's a lot of ways to use that draw function and the embossing. And you can use SVG files in here. You can use the built-in files. I mean, there's just, it is really endless. We never run out of ideas. And the other place you can go on the Brother Crafts Facebook page, if you look under Brother Crafts and then on the Facebook page and then under videos, you will see every video that's ever been on Facebook for Brother Crafts. And that will be all the Scan and Cut videos. You'll see a ton. Like all the past show archives are really easy to get to for the Scan and Cut.
That's awesome. So, hey, Connie, how are you? She wants to know, how often do you have to buy a new knife? I have never had to buy a new knife, actually, but you do with me.
I was actually, when we started this, and I'm looking at some of the cuts, there's just on a few spots, there's a teeny tiny slight, and I mean, I'm being super picky, but I'm starting to see some slight imperfections sometimes. That's telling me that my blade is starting to get a little bit dull. Now in this machine, this is the machine I use the most, and I think it's been a year. So, I mean, it goes along, they really, really last. Your only exception is going to be just like sewing in your sewing machine. If you're punching through things that dull the needle, the needle's going to dull faster. Versus if you're going through materials that are not hard on the blade, it's going to last longer.
Okay, perfect. Oh, yes, how did we forget about how it cuts the rhinestone?
You know what's funny is I have 2 rhinestone projects up on my desk right now for to put up onto Instagram. I have 2 rhinestone projects I've been working on. Is the rhinestones and the felt come out in August 1st. Those start coming out and they stay out the rest of the year.
Yes, absolutely. Hold on. I'm just double checking. Oh, what Brother product? Let me just check this. Marcia, what is the Brother product to put on the back of fabric before cutting? I want to tell my dealer, and they don't carry any Brother stabilizer. Oh, it's the, I just put some away. Do you know what it's called, May?
Is it fabric support?
Yes, the fabric support sheet, Marcia. Now, they also have, though, the fabric mat, which is different depending on what Scan and Cut you have. And the Scan and Cut mat, you don't want to use that for. You want to just have plain fabric that you maybe add a little starch to. At least that's what I do. How about you, May?
You know what? It depends on what I'm making. If I'm doing something like I'm going to do applique, so I know I would rather have iron-on stabilizer on there, then I'll do that because I know I'm going to then want to iron it so it will press really nicely and stay still. Versus if I'm doing something else where, just a little starch. It just kind of depends.
And just to make that clear, Marcia, I was thinking more of the mats, the fabric mat versus the not mat. So, and then there's a fabric support sheet that goes on a mat that's different than the fabric mat. You're thinking of what goes on the back of the fabric, and that's not called the fabric support sheet. I have to look at the name. I have a whole roll. Hold on a second. I'm going to go get it. This is, would you know? Would you know that I took the label off? Marcia, I'll have to look up the name for you. And if you message me, I can get you that link too. But the fabric mat with the blade is great. And exactly what May said, though, if you're doing an applique, I would rather have the backing on the fabric. It makes it easy. You can just place it on something, give it a little pressing, and it's good to go. Let's see. Any other questions? Everybody's saying thank you, thank you. Where can you get the patterns that have to be activated? Are you talking about in Canvas Workspace or?
It has to be Canvas Workspace. So if you're purchasing any of the bundles of patterns from Brother, and you're purchasing them, assuming you're purchasing them from Brother, then you're logging into Canvas Workspace, and you'd have an activation code, and you would see everything right there and a place to punch that on in.
Great. Barbara Jones. Hi, Barbara. She said, I'd love to see a session about creating rhinestones. Her first attempt is now in the landfill. That doesn't sound good, Barbara.
So, Barbara, I actually have a couple of YouTube videos on it, and we did a show on rhinestones too. So there is one. And if you can't find them, you could send me a message, and I'll send you a link. But there is a show, and there's a number of YouTubes too.
Oh, Cindy, thank you. The iron-on fabric contact sheet. That's what I was thinking of.
That's the one.
That's it. Cindy to the rescue. I thought you were busy. You're multitasking today, Cindy. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, ladies. And thank you for rolling. Hey, so Cindy, while you're in here, just a quick question. Have you ever, or can you, because this is a question that either of us were going to go look up, scan in, what did she ask? May, can you scan in your mat?
Can you scan the mat, but then show that onto Canvas Workspace?
Yeah. So Cindy, while you're here, we're going to pick your brain. Oh, Barbara, yeah, you'll love that show. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, she's on lunch. Okay, so we're gonna ask you again. Yeah, Joe, you can use that too. That's not a Brother product, though. You're welcome. All right, so we'll wait 1 sec. There's like a 20-second delay. So May, what's going to be what are you working on next? I can hardly wait till next month to see what you have, because now fall is your favorite season. You always have such fun projects.
It is. I haven't decided what we're going to do next, but I'll tell you what I'm doing in the studio. I'm doing a combination of, one of the things I'm doing is I'm reimagining what I think puppy-proofing a craft studio looks like, because I was wrong. I was so wrong. I thought I had it all set, and I was all proud of myself, and then ribbons are flying, and this is flying. Things are flying all around, and so that's my main goal, is get a few more things into plastic containers that can't be yanked out. Apparently, that's very fun. I didn't never know that pulling fibers and ribbons out of a drawer was so much fun, but apparently it is. So I need to fix a few things like that. And then creatively, you know what? I'm doing a lot of craft or sticker vinyl stuff, because we're going back to school next week. So I've got a lot of stuff that I'm doing with that. And then I've been doing some hand embroidery on some shirts and things. And I've been working on my scrapbooking, the summer adventures we've been on. So I'm all over the place over here. We're just doing lots of different crafty stuff.
So I see Cindy's response here. How old is your dog, by the way?
10 weeks.
10 weeks. Oh, that's
He's a baby.
All right. So Cindy says you would use the scan function from the home screen and choose transfer to Canvas Workspace. There you go.
Okay.
I've not ever done that. And she has more. It will want you to choose trace. So hopefully that lady's still in here. If not, she could, I think it was Lynn, trace it to take whatever it shows and then delete all the cut data and place your items over it. You can then transfer the file back over. Awesome.
And I understand completely what she's saying. Thank you, Cindy. If that doesn't totally make sense, I know there's videos on it. Since that is a thing, I know there's videos on it, so you'll be able to find those and do that if you prefer to work that way.
Definitely. So, by the way, mark your calendar, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, noon Eastern Standard Time. May, this has been fantastic. If you would like to find May, I have the Instagram up above for all three of us. Brother loves to see what you're working on. Be sure to tag them and thank them for letting the brand ambassadors take over their page for the live shows. We love doing this. And also, there's May's website below. Be sure to subscribe to her YouTube channel. She has a ton of great things. Also, I have Brother website down there because they have the blog for sewing and crafting. And there's always new information. I can hardly wait. So May, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I'll be going live or premiering every day next week, new ideas. So be sure to tune in either on Instagram or on Facebook. If you tune into either one, you'll be able to find all of that. Lots of fun creativeness coming your way.
Every day next week. That's fantastic.
Every day.
Time, or you don't know yet? Do you know what time?
It's going to be mixed actually later today. So today is Thursday the 5th. Later today, the whole schedule will go up on Facebook so that you'll be able to see. And that's just at Craft with May on Facebook. The whole schedule will go up so you can see what's going when.
Awesome. So we got lots going on next week. Very fun. Very exciting. All right, May. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any more. You're welcome, Anne. Everybody says thank you. And brother, yes, of course. Can't wait. And Linda, yes, you're welcome. Linda said thanks for answering that. I'm glad you didn't leave before we got all those answers for you.
Yes.
So the brother team is always on board. All right. So hey, May, I'm going to close this out with one of these one of the new quilting ads. It is the funniest thing ever, and it has a dog on it. So
yay!
May, great to see you. Have a good day. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
I'm afraid I have a confession to make. I'm actually here undercover. March, now. I came to Quilt Club to gain the knowledge and insight to help build the best collection of quilting machines Brothers made. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you I was undercover. Can you find it in your hearts to forgive me? Let's quilt.